is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Different ethnic groups, but people who unite and speak one language. Our athletes continue to fly our flag high, breaking records left, right, center. Our tourism, one of the best in the world. Talk about the wonders of the wild beast migration. Look at our mountains, our lakes, and the agriculture that the country continues to celebrate. But that notwithstanding, we equally have our own internal problems, and one would only hope that we get to solve these issues and Kenya gets to be the pride of Africa as it should be. But our proverb of the day today: a child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. How would you interpret that?
Yes, let me begin by saying thank you for inviting me today. And just before I begin, it's a very difficult moment in the Republic of Kenya, where we all say that we lift our nation to God, and not only lifting our nation to God, and that God may bring healing, especially those that were affected yesterday. And these are our children. As you say, they are our children. They are part of the nation, and that child must be taken care of. A child must be brought up both mind, spirit, and soul. If you don't want to get in trouble tomorrow with that child, if you don't take care of him yesterday, he'll take care of you tomorrow. And if you don't take care of him yesterday, what you didn't do yesterday will affect him today. So left or right, the child belongs to you. And so what you experience today is just what you did yesterday. And the child is part of you. We in the religious part of it, we say, the child is me minus salvation. So if my child is a thug, it just means I am a thug when I'm not saved. And so the child is just an outcome of what the parent is. Nothing much. After all, from the faith point of it, the Bible does not say teachers teach children. The Bible does not say school teach children. The Bible says parents teach your children.
Well, there you go. And I guess the last thing that you said is a good step for us to get onto this conversation for this morning. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been fed a number of things. The country has been privy or has been audience to a number of shows over the last many days, from the wild conversations around whether the president should or should not build a church with his own resources on public land, whether we should see a situation where such violent activities are taking place around the country, where they're dead, where there are young people who've lost their lives even before they get to their prime. And we're talking about public accountability. And we want, as human beings, to point fingers, isn't it? We want to say, well, it's that person's fault. And if that person weren't doing what they were doing, then perhaps we would not be in this mess. Do we have collective public accountability when it comes to the issues that we are facing? From the perspective of the National Council of Churches of Kenya, is it everybody, or is there one person or group of people with whom the buck stops?
Let him begin just from the word go, it's everybody.
Okay.
Why? Religion is for all of us. Now, accountability is for all of us. If when it comes to faith and accountability, there are two things. What is faith? In the way I go to church, in theology, we say there's something called liturgy. Liturgy is both formal liturgy. Formal liturgy is what we do on Sundays when we are worshiping. Informal liturgy is what we are involved in. When you are cooking ugali, when you are making kidheri, that's informal liturgy. The way you do it, it must reflect your faith. When you are serving God everywhere. So when we talk of those things that are happening, actually they tell you where we are as far as faith is concerned. Your faith is seen in your action. Faith is something you see when somebody is acting. It's not just the drama that we are involved in. It's not just the decoration. When we talk of building of a church is decoration. But there is the inner thing. There is the software. The software is what you do on a daily basis. So there's a discussion here of, should we build a church? Should we not build a church? Yes, there's something called priorities. both in formal and informal liturgy. So the formal liturgy is what you did on Sunday. After that, you go back to your structured operation. Are there priorities? Somebody will ask, should we put up a church? There's the issue of building a church in State House. Building a church of State House, I don't think we should build a church in State House. What we need to do in State House is put up a chapel. A chapel is for all of us. A place where people can go and meet with God at different times. A chapel, everybody will come in. And we do, I use the statement we, not I. We, because we all need God. So that when we are involved in informal liturgy of think about other countries, think about visitors and all that who go to State House, we go to informal liturgy where we can now take time to worship and meet with God and express ourselves to God. So,
Reverend, just a second. That's interesting. You're saying we don't need to build a church in State House. We need to build a chapel. What's the difference between the two?
yes, a church, the concept of a church. Okay, the word church simply means people called by God for purpose. Where people are, the church is there. But when we talk of church as far as a building, a church might belong to a particular denomination, might belong to a particular group, a people group. But a chapel is where all of us gather at a particular time. That's when we talk of this chapel. When we talk of a chapel, I mean, you belong to a denomination, I belong to mine, and then we agree at a particular time because of our faith system. Let's meet to tell God what we want in an organized way. So you just meet shortly for an organized way, then you go. But every other places, you go to your own churches. If you're an Anglican, you go to Anglican. If you're a Methodist, you go to a Methodist. But we have chapel. This concept has been there in different places. In the army barracks, those concepts are there. When you go to, once I worked at police college, I put up a huge chapel at police college in Ikiganjo. So, whereas it's not a Presbyterian church, it's not an Anglican church, it's a chapel. And when it comes to this kind of situation, we do as Kenyans, we do as a community, we do as a people, not I. So, and how do we do it? It is for all of us. It is in the public place, for the public people, for all of us to do what's supposed to be done.
And is this chapel meant for, because what President Ruto was saying, he didn't want to start a church there. There was already a church, only that it was an iron sheet church. And he says it's meant to cater for the families who live within State House, 300, I think, plus in number. Is this supposed to be financed by an individual? And in this case, I'm referring to the president who resides there, because that's public land. Or is this supposed to come from taxpayers' money to build that chapel? Because that's where there's also an issue.
The taxpayers' money has a structure of how the money is used. The Constitution of Kenya has a structure. How do you use our public funds? And I don't think the issue of that one is there. I have not seen anywhere they say this is for building religious place. But we are religious people. If we meet and agree we are going to put up a chapel in this studio, we are going to destine it a place for worship, a place where people can go. And when you are speaking here, you can move there and worship. It becomes a chapel. And we do it, all of us, because I do it for now, then I walk out. When I'm not in the studio, other people continue doing. But I can't do You see, if I do, for example, if I'm head of this institution, in history, we know of people, heads of states, who have put up temples for their self-worship. I'm sure that's not what the head of state means. This is not a shrine for people to worship an individual. This is a place for all of us to be there, whether it is small or big. But they are priorities. What we are trying in Kenya, I don't think is the issue of the chapel. I think it's the priorities and where the money is coming from. If the money is being contributed, I come from a background whereby nobody owns the church. The church is owned for all of us. Nobody owns the chapel. The chapel is owned for all of us. So the president if the president is part of that, a Christian, or part of that faith system, what he needs to do is to bring his 10 shillings, and the sweeper in State House bring another 5 shillings, and then the other bring 2 shillings. They put up at that place. That place is not meant for anybody, and nobody can be given credit for that. It's not I, myself. It is all of us there to worship there. And when I walk there as a priest, I offer services and walk out, because I know my parish is the world. My parish are those people. I just walk in on Sunday or a particular day. If on Sunday, if I want to teach catechism, I walk in, I teach people catechism, and then I walk out. those who belong to 32-member church of NCCK, you have an Anglican, Presbyterian, Methodist, and I'm there. I just come and offer services to you using the formal liturgy, the Geneva liturgy for all of us, then I walk out. So it can't be my church, your church, my space, I build. The issue, I should be out.
Reverend, you hear when the president is addressing matters to do with the church, he says, I have no apologies to make. I will build this church. And just so you know, it is my money. But you realize that the president is a symbol of national unity. He is there to represent all Kenyans of different faith. And even when it comes to building up this church or would be a chapel, Kenyans would want to have a say on where that is and why it is being put up. But you realize the president is making a unilateral decision as an individual that I am putting this up, whether you like it or not. And even as we talk about matters to do with priorities, is that a priority for the nation as we speak right now?
That's why I said the issue of the church, the chapel, that statement, we that come from the Christian part of it, is Jesus said, I'll build my church. Jesus built his church. But if we have resources to be able to put together as part of our offerings, we can put our offerings together and put up the church. So the discussion should not be, is he putting up a church? He's contributing towards. If he's contributing like any other person to put up a chapel there, that's okay. But the issue is, I don't think the issue is he putting up a chapel? The issue is, where is the money coming from? If the money is, the contribution is coming from those Christians there, and they want to put up a chapel, so be it. As I said, I worked at a police college many years ago, and the former commissioner, was a staunch Christian. We put up resources together in Kiruki. We put up a Kenya police chapel. And the Muslim community, they put up the Muslim mosque. And they are good chapels where people go and meet God at a particular time. But the priority, if it's about from the accounts, if it's coming from the taxpayer, that should not happen.
Should the religious, the clergy, have a say with regard to this chapel that is put up in the state? And
I think they had a say when that place started, because it was we don't know who started, but we know that it has existed. It has existed as space, an old space where they used to do that. So if it's renovating that place, I don't find a big issue. But if the money is coming from the taxpayer, no.
I mean, just to put it into context, because you've brought the element of chapel, which I've not thought about, but I'm looking at just other examples. So now in Kenya, what we have and what the president is suggesting is to put up a church. He's going to use his own money to put it up, and he said he wants to put up a decent structure for the house of God because he's living in one. And he said if he goes to heaven and God asks him the question, what does he want us to...
How would you respond?
Yes. So you look at United Kingdom, the Buckingham Palace contains a private chapel. So this is basically for royal christenings and private services for the sovereign and the family. Spain, the Royal Palace of Madrid houses the Royal Chapel. We go to Zambia, just here in Africa. They host regular prayer meetings for the president, the staff, and invited congregations. They also have a State House Chapel. That's what they're calling it. We go to Ethiopia. It is the same thing. We go to Ghana. They have a chapel alongside the residential quarters and offices. So they use that space for that same reason. In Nigeria, they also have, actually call it Villa Chapel.
Yes.
So then the concept of chapel is okay, but the concept of then now designating it to a church is you're reducing it to a denomination. That's where the problem is.
And that's what we are saying. Those are chapels, but also as a Christian, theological, I'll be uncomfortable to say that this is a chapel to pray for a particular person. It's a chapel to pray for the nation. Our national anthem begins by Mungu, you are our strength. May justice be a defender. If it's a place where we need to go and consult God when injustice is there, we need to consult God when we think things are not doing right, then that would be very comfortable. It would be a big issue as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to a denomination, then every denomination has structures. Every denomination has governments. So within what government of the denomination will we talk about that chapel? If the Anglican have a particular bishop and all that, or the Presbyterian has the moderator, which I am one of them. The Pentecostal has what they call it, the superintendents. So you don't come up to all those things. But if it's a chapel for all of us, we meet again. The Pentecostal, the Presbyterian, the Anglicans, we all meet and just worship God at a particular time. But again, the resources that goes in might depend to every nation and different constitution of every nation. In our country, I don't think there's a place we say this is money for construction of churches. And if it's construction of churches, the dedication of that church, then we need to who is supposed to do the dedication? Maybe dedication will be done by all of us in the religious council. It will be done by the NCCK, where we bring all the together. But it's not an individual. I should be out when it comes to the presence of God.
So
because God is supreme.
Yeah, so I mean, a good friend of ours previously would say, well, it's good that things like this happen, because then what it does is that it puts discourse like this into the public arena.
Yes.
That had something like this actually not happened, we would not be having these conversations around the method and the manner in which these things actually should be carried out.
Yes.
Right? So we wouldn't have the discourse. People would not give their opinion. People would
that's
then...
true. That's true.
It would not get us to the place where we're having these conversations. So for us to say that it should cut across denomination, it should cut across, essentially, there should be a place where, and that's what it was, that you can actually come and bring the issues of the nation, in a solemn moment.
Yes.
That's what it should be. And it's possible that perhaps it was not common knowledge and not to everybody.
Yes, but remember, the president is not a bishop.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Perhaps it was not common knowledge to everybody, and that's all-encompassing in terms of individuals, including the president. So it's possible that we have these conversations, and they're enlightening conversations, and in terms of the point of knowledge, to say, look, maybe you are off on a point of a mistake. And then why we talk about it and put it in the public arena is that so that we can circle back on what these things are meant to be. So, having said that, can there really be separation of religion and state? Can there really be?
I don't know what you mean by really. As far as I know, the church and the state works like two sisters. The church and the state, they are two sisters doing the same thing, but they meet somewhere. The responsibility of the church is to serve humanity. The state serves humanity. Like we in the NCCK, we are in the National Council of Churches for wananchi, which means people are a priority to us. What happens to wananchi is so important to us, because what you do to wananchi, you are doing to God. And so, what the state does to wananchi, they are doing to God. Are there separation? The separation, they are just two sisters born with the same mother.
Okay.
And their mother is God.
All right.
And we are doing the same thing, so that men and women should live in integrity, should have integrity, should be able to face God, to meet God, and do what God has called us to do.
Okay.
The state has been called to serve God. The church has been called to serve God, and we serve together. We are not the boss of the other. The state is not the boss of the church, and the church is not the boss of the state, but they are two sisters working together, and they need to agree. And so, right now, I'm wondering, there is that big issue about the chapel and the man of the chapel. I wish people will be asking, where are we getting money for empowerment? What is empowerment? What's the source of empowerment? Is it part of our budget? Is the empowerment is the budget? What is this we are trying to do when you talk of empowerment? Is it by just buying some legit, or what is it? But the issue of the chapel, to me, the chapel, the head of state brings, not as the head of state, but as a Christian for his faith system. Him and his family, actually it's not his money, him and his family, me and my family, you and your family, put money together. Just the head of state quoted a scripture. He quoted a scripture in Haggai, chapter 1, verse 4, where he said, go to the mountain, bring logs, let's put up a chapel for God. When he'll not be asked as a pastor, he'll be asked, did you and other people get in the mountain, brought logs, and put up a chapel? Yes.
But Reverend, isn't it a contradiction when you say, why are we not, the issue of the chapel, we should look at the empowerment money, where is it coming from? This same money comes to church on Sunday's offerings. The president, together with those who go with him, have been on several occasions, from the time when we were going through an election campaign to the most recent conversation of donating 20 million to a particular church, why then why are we not having that conversation? Because if we're then talking about empowerment programs and there's money going in there and we don't know where it's coming from, why don't you then question these monies that come to church in terms of donations? Where is this money coming from?
We have done several times. Actually, every church has procedures. The procedure for the church, in church we take tithes and offering. Tithes and offering are in the scripture. And Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek. And Melchizedek was the local priest. And so everybody say you are supposed to pay tithes to your local priest. And where your local priest is 10% is by the scripture. You take it there for the development of the church. And the scripture is so clear who is supposed to use tithes and offering. So when you bring money, whether you bring 50 million, 10 million, it should be tithes and offering. Nobody should talk about it. And I'm not even supposed to announce because it's between you and God. So I'll not question so much because it's between you and God. Where you go, you went for farming, you brought 10 million, as per your 10%, then there, let for it. Because I don't have the spiritual meter to look at it and say, this is from where you got it. Mine is to, but surely if you tell me that you stole, I'll not pick it as a priest.
As a priest. Let's take a break at this point. We're talking with the regional chair of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. It's Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga. And so the question will come in later then. If it is the case that state and church and many others will look at it in the same vein, that we actually to serve people, that the livelihoods of people is top of the agenda as a service unto the Almighty, then should we ever be silent about the things that we see? We're going to show you a couple of videos. They'll be a bit disturbing. We'll show them to you of things that took place yesterday. And so then we're going to ask then, where's the voice to move people in the correct direction? At 26 minutes to 10, this conversation continues after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
DJ Tatua.
We value your feedback and welcome your comments, queries, and complaints regarding our content. You can get in touch with us via SMS on 22151, call 0719 012 111 or 0732 142 000 or email feedback@standardmedia.co.ke. Our PO Box number is 30080-00100 Nairobi, or deliver to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi.
The envelope. It should be in that cabinet.
Here.
It's filled with letters, so I'd write him letters on every birthday. That's how I released all of my anger.
Give me that. Why did they want to take the letters that you wrote for your dad?
Maybe he thought there was money inside.
Who are you?
There was a burglar, ma'am. I was just trying to help.
No, you're the burglar!
What were you doing in that place? I don't buy your explanation, Edward.
I really didn't want to get you involved, but the chief just had to meddle.
Have you already forgotten? If not for him, you'd still be in prison because of vehicular homicide. And here you are, getting yourself into another trouble.
I thought you were different from Mom. Turns out you both feel the same way about me.
Where are you going?
We're going to see your dad, remember?
organic system of vegetable farming. First of all, what does a farmer need to do?
Well, I would say that prepare your soil. Soil is the backbone. Let your soil be fertile, let your soil be clean. So having your soil clean with compost, avoiding all sorts of chemical you can avoid. You don't have to use so much expensive, just whatever you get in your kitchen as refuse. Let it just, that compost, then first, that is the first thing. Let your soil be clean. So your soil be clean.
Do you use pesticides on this farm?
No.
You don't use pesticides?
Yeah, natural pesticides, but not those horrible chemicals that are still being sold in the agrovets here.
All
People, please stop using it.
What would you tell a young farmer out there who would like to get into organic farming?
Well, I would say that just start. Start. You don't have to have a clear plan. Sometimes the plans are so complicating, and so whatever you have, just start with that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
That should not happen. Do we see where there is an outcry, an immediate outcry of this? And even as we are speaking now, we're looking at pictures of yesterday whereby this young man had already, from all we see, had already been killed. And he was being dragged through that part. And we can see the pictures, even as they're playing now. He was being dragged. And then I thought to myself, the value that we've placed on human life is so degraded that it allows all of these things to happen. That a value has reduced so much that all of these things happen. And so that's why we can see poor playing in politics. That's why we can see, man to man, brother to brother can fight one another. That we can use the kind of words that we use on one another and feel no shame for it. That we can be so angry, that we can kill without thought. That we can send out orders with wanton abandon. And so I have to ask myself that what is the value then that really then is placed on human life?
The value system will only be defined the way we are brought up. This is the outcome of what we have been for a long time. Actually, it's just coming to light. What has been at the back of our mind is coming to light at this kind of situation. Is the value system. I'm frustrated when I look at it. The ethical viper in us, we question that. Now, the question has been, with all this drama, what is somebody trying to gain out of this? And that's what we need to ask God just to reveal to us. What are we trying to gain out of this? There are some things we feel frustrated because some things we have read from newspapers. Sometimes we have taken our people to Rwanda to see what happened. But unfortunately, we are getting there. And that is why as a group, as a people group, as Kenyans, we need just to come up and say no. The church, we have said it several times. And as you say, where is the voice? The voice of the church has been there. Recently, we released a letter on Sunday. We released a letter on Sunday that mentioned a number of things where we said no abduction. Some of these decisions are being made with our sisters, although she withdrew, and we thank God. Esther Passaris, we said no, and we thank God she withdrew. She said she has withdrawn what she had proposed. And so what we are saying, as a people group, despite of me preaching to you, do you also have a value system? Do you also have an ethical viper in you? How were you brought up? Surely, taking somebody's life, is it acceptable? It is not acceptable. What's happening right now, it is so demonic, so frustrating. It is something no one will want to stand to say this. But what is so surprising that we have seen it left and right is that these things seem to be, are they being done with our fellow Kenyans? We are yet to see. I saw what happened in Keserian yesterday, and I didn't believe it. Because actually that one I saw with my own eyes. I saw those vehicles coming in. And later, what happened? You look at it and say, really? Is this acceptable? The moral integrity of our people, where has it gone? the value system. You talked about the child. Surely, were you brought up to kill? What will your parents be happy that you have killed somebody and then you go back and say you have brought money? Unfortunate.
Reverend, I have a quick question. Have you been to State House?
Not once, several times.
And in those meetings, you've met the head of state?
Yes.
You've held meetings?
I've sat here and you sat where you are.
Okay. And you sat as NCCK?
Yes.
Have you ever had conversations around what's happening in the country?
Yes, we have.
And what feedback do you get? Because the reason I ask that question is the feelings that people have, especially with the church in this conversation, is you are quote-unquote co-conspirators in this sense. It was very evident that the church was supporting President Ruto, and by the clergy then rallying around the president and supporting him, because this started way back in Karen when he was still deputy president, and this was before the election. Now, how then do you distinguish yourself from your role, spiritual role and guidance, with political alignments, and then when we're in a crisis like this one, again, you will talk like an outsider, but you've been on the inside as well.
Something need to be clarified here.
Okay.
When you ask me whether I've been to State House, the question would have been, what did you go to do? That should be.
I asked what conversations did you have? Did
what
you talk
conversation-
about
yes.
what is affecting Kenyans there?
Okay, but before that, there has been a notion that the church and the state is the same. I said no. But individual church members, individual independent brothers in the name of pastors have their rights to make and support whoever they want. But the church as an organization, the church as a national council of churches, we support nobody from. We cannot tell you that we support this or that. We are always, we are the mother. There's no way the mother is going to stand behind a particular person. And so you will never get any paper or any resolution in the NCCK office saying we supported so and so. If I stand here and say that we support so and so, tomorrow I'll be on the carpet for the EXCOM, Executive Council of the NCCK. They tell me, Chair, that's not our stand, because we must say what we have done. But individuals who represented what we call church, they might have done things here and there. But as far as we're concerned, and I'm not saying we don't support him. Individuals, you are allowed to support whoever you like. I'm allowed to support whoever I like. But the church as an organization, we do not support that or the other.
So when you should visit State House as Reverend Kanga, do you do that as Reverend Kanga, or do you do that as the chair of the NCCK?
In most cases, when I visit State House, I visit State House on the behalf of the NCCK. And the NCCK always gives me after we have discussed, we agree, the following issues must be agreed upon. Can you see the head of state and ask him this and this or that? Like when there was a problem in the country, when we were banning the country, we went there and told him this is not going to happen. And then when he signed that withdrawal of that paper, withdrawal of finance, I was standing here. I was standing behind him, because that's what we requested him to do.
This is the finance bill you're referring to.
The finance bill. I was standing on that line. And we asked him, as a Kenyan, as co-workers, please, this is not the right thing. Our children have said no. Indicators say Kenyans don't want this. So, and he agreed, and we did it. And then there are things we agreed from now, this is the way. Whether he has accomplished what we agreed or not, that remains to be seen.
Reverend, now here's a question where as NCCK, you do not support anybody, but as an individual, you support the president. How do you then disassociate yourself from the institution you belong to?
I didn't say as an individual I support the president. I say as an individual I have
It's
a
an
right.
example.
As an individual I support what my mind says. The
You have a
person
right to
agrees
support
with.
him.
Yes.
How would you disassociate yourself from the questions being asked by Kenyans that the church is part of the problem?
How do I disassociate? Now you can ask me, who did you support? Did I support him? Am I supporting him? I cannot get out of it. Just like all of us Kenyans, we cannot get out of this, because we are all in it. And that's why all of us as priests and individuals, we are all in it. So we need to say no to what's happening. We not a fact that we did not give the head of state our mandate as individuals. we do not hand our lives to him. Surely. We only say, please get this name. What do you do? Lead us for this for the time being. But when you go wrong, we all need to say no. Because when you support and I don't support, when he goes to State House, he becomes our president. He is our president. It's not you and I. He's our president for our nation.
Okay, Reverend, he is our president. In your meetings in State House, because you earlier said, then as the church, you are representing the people. You're the voice of the people. Do you bring up all these atrocities and all these issues that concern church members, by extension Kenyans, to him? Do you bring those issues to him?
I said, before we walk to State House, we consult. And we consult Gen Z, who are part of us. And even in the same, like the time when we were there for finance bill, we had all the Gen Zs that belongs to the system. We had all of them, and we all asked him a question. It's clear.
And in raising these issues and having these conversations, do you agree timelines? Do you agree on deliverables? What exactly happens?
There is an extent we should do. First of all, as a leader, I'll tell you our stand. And then I tell you it is better. We give suggestions, and then the rest depends on you. But I can again say, William as an individual, he means good. But we need to question the advisors.
How often do we do this questioning? And I'm curious. Because if I sat in a position whereby it was my job to make sure that at the very least there is information that's being passed on to my sister, and I like the I don't know what description that you gave about the church and state being sisters, that if my job was to look out for what my sister was doing every day, and I see that there's something going wrong, I'm going to be calling my sister and say, hey sis, today this didn't go right, how about that? And then I call you on the 25th and I say, hey sis, 19 people died today in a manner in which they ought not to have died. And I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to say, hey, sis, a man died in a jail cell. He shouldn't have died. Another one was shot point blank range. He shouldn't have died. With the things that we are seeing, I'm thinking it should be an everyday conversation between these two sisters.
Yes, it is. But the sister will tell you, yes, I'm working on it. I'm praying about it. I'm consulting the people that I've sent to do that. And then we continue hoping. That's why we are people of hope. We'll always tell you, and the sister will say, yes, I'm working on it.
Is that what the president says? Is that what the state says when the church, for example, has the conversation and they say, actually, yes, we're working on this. We hate to see that people are killed with such wanton abandon. We hate to see that there are people in the streets protesting over issues that we have control over. Do they actually tell you that they're working on it? Yes. The president says to you that
the president will say, I'm working on it.
How recently has he said this to you, that we're working on this?
But he has said everywhere. He has said he's in charge. He's the buck stops on him. I'm in charge. If he's in charge, he's working on it.
But Reverend,
he has a responsibility to control it.
Reverend,
but we also have a responsibility to help him run the country.
Reverend, there's what you said William as an individual, a good person, but it's the advisors. There's what the president will say publicly, but then there's what he will tell you as NCCK or the clergy in State House without cameras and without any recordings. The question that I want answered is, in your conversations, because you're representing the people and you're telling Mr. President, this is our stand as NCCK or as the clergy, and these are the issues that Kenyans are going through. We want these issues addressed. What does he say? Does he commit to addressing those things when you raise them up?
Like any other leader, if you come to me as a leader and you are telling me issues, I'll give you my perspective, and then you give us your perspective. Then we agree. From now, this should be the measurables. This should be the following thing that we need to agree on. Now, the implementation, now you go through your system to implement what you have agreed. So it is true. If I tell now, my friend, 1, 2, 3 is not going right. There's the issue of moral integrity here. There's a potential trouble here. They say, yes, if there's a potential trouble here, then I'm going to deal with the system I put in place. Deal with that minister. Deal with that minister. Then we agree, okay, now from now, we are brothers, we are sisters. We shake hands. Then we wait for implementation. The issue is the implementation stage.
So from last year, when you went to State House, this was when you said you stood behind him when he was now saying he will not sign the finance bill to today. It's been 1 year. Are you seeing any change? Is he listening? Has he implemented any of the things you raised?
Of course, he withdrew finance bill. And then after withdrawing the finance bill, they have a number of things. Surely we cannot say that all things were not done. There are few things I've done with different ministers. And like in the area of agriculture, I don't think we have seen some people selling stones instead of manure, those kind of issues. The issue of SHA, we have talked. You can see SHA is working, SHA is not working, but we all believe, sure, like the head of state cannot come and manage SHA in hospitals. When SHA is not working, it's purely us. Okay? Again, the moral fabric.
What do you mean it's us?
The moral fabric. Why is SHA not working and there's a minister of health? Why is farming not operating and there's the minister of agriculture? So we all need also to join hands, because the head of state as an individual will not come and micromanage us on the ground.
But Reverend, in your church, if you have a department in your church, you are leading your church. If something happens, let's say in the children's department or Sunday school, something happens to children and these issues are reported to you, surely
take action immediately.
You take action, exactly. So surely you can then say that the president can't micromanage because the buck stops with him. The same way, the buck stops with you with everything that's going on under you in your departments. You take charge, you take responsibility. If you need to kick somebody out, you do that. You show action to the members that you care and that you are in charge. Why then don't we see the same or demand of the same from the head of state? Why are we excusing him?
Yes, and I'm not defending the head of state here. What I'm saying is that despite what the head of state can do, as Kenyans, there is also what we call the ethical viper in us. There is what we call the value system in us. Can we come together as Kenyans and ask ourselves, within our ethical viper, how do we operate? For example, this person pulling somebody on the road. Surely, this police officer on the road is pulling his brother on the road. How is he ethical viper? How is his value system? Can he really say that the president told me to kill? Surely, heaven is for you as individual. The president will go to hell or heaven based on his faith. And you also go to hell or heaven based on your faith. But you don't go killing people around and say, I'm doing in the name of the state.
Reverend, if we go back to some of the proposals that you gave the president, includes the Independent Commission of Inquiry, where that was supposed to investigate killings and disappearances linked to protest, as well as immediate withdrawal of finance bill and cease use of force, which happened. The finance bill 2024 was withdrawn. Youth empowerment and participation, has that happened? Question. Reconstitute IEBC, that is still under process. Then further, there is another proposal that you gave: independent investigations, listening to citizens, combating corruption, lower taxation. If you look at all these proposals that you gave to the president, one would say 90% of these have not been implemented, which asks the question, is the church really being listened to and heard by the president?
They normally say there is work in progress. We'll always say there's work in progress, but that does not stop us from asking again and asking, because we have a responsibility. I said we are two sisters, and the sisters will always ask the sister, is work in progress? How far has it gone?
Are you satisfied with the position of work in progress?
Yes. Not really.
Okay. What do you do about it? I imagine that in the private sector, the corporate sector, we hear, what are these things they say?
PIP.
Those ones. But they only give you a certain period of time. There's a 3 months, there's 6 months. After that time, you should have proven yourself.
The measurables.
The measurables. Or the KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. And at some point, somebody would have said, you know what, this can be a work in progress, or you can have an I'll get back to you kind of thing. And without you showing me that there's actually, it's not as though you're waiting for money and the money has not come. This is very different. That there are things that you can actually do to bring about a change. And if this person who is supposed to be your moral compass, or at least the person who's supposed to keep you diligent or righteous in your pursuit of this progress, if they don't show it, do we see the registering of dissatisfaction with that position? What it looks like to the people is that there's a visit to State House, and that there is a happy lunch, and then, you know, everybody goes home, and then we come back and have this conversation when a body's dragged in the street like what we saw yesterday, and then everybody's up in arms. That there needs to be the constant, progressive, repetitive action whereby I'm in your ear every day, and I say, look, Kenyans are not happy.
And I can tell you we are doing that.